All right, Victorum Gaming fans and Hail Caesar fans of Warlord Games. We're back. We got another faction review video for you guys today. So again, we're still making our way, kind of finishing up the Bronze Age here. So our next one is actually Israel and Judeah. So roughly, 10th through 8th centuries BC. Previous video we finished up the Sea Peoples. That kind of gets to that Bronze Age collapse period. So, but this is 10th century through 8th century. So some things to consider here. So definitely a fun army to collect. So what do we got here? We got chariots that are at least a quarter of the army have to be chariots, and infantry have to be at least 50%. Cavalry outriders can be included as subunits of chariots as noted. And then camel riders are restricted to a single unit. And then our normal division and skirmisher restrictions there. So you definitely have a good selection of infantry and chariot forces here. So again, very similar to a lot of the other sort of Middle Eastern units, or not units, but factions that we've been covering so far. So, and then they do have a surprisingly diverse list here of different units. So let's start going through them here. So we got, and again, apologies for pronunciation if we screw something up here, but Gibborim Guard, medium infantry armed with spears and javelins. So you get only one unit of those. Pretty solid clash values there, as we've seen for just your typical medium infantry here. A little bit of short range power, typical morale save, and they are stubborn and tough fighters and all that for 26 points. So pretty cool. And again, you get only one unit of them. You might as well take them just to get access to those special abilities there. Then you get some typical Judean spearmen, medium infantry with spears and shields. Again, basically same stats, just minus the special rules, and that does save you 3 points right there. So, yeah, definitely basically going to be your sort of mainstay infantry unit there, with the Gibborim kind of being that elite version of that. You get Gadite, light infantry with javelins, okay close combat ability, but absolutely no morale save, and only 19 points a unit there. So, again, keyword light infantry there. Don't expect them to do more than what they're actually designed to do. Then you get Zebulonite, light infantry with a mix of spears and bows. So here's a pretty cool unit. So for 3 extra points, you keep the same close combat ability, which again is okay, but don't expect them to, deal with something like, heavy infantry or heavy cavalry or anything like that. But you add in rock solid long range missile fire. So again, really solid unit there. And then moving on, we got Danite, light infantry, sword, and buckler men. So kind of an interesting option here. Again, same clash and sustain that we've been seeing here last couple of units. A little bit weaker on the short range. They do bring in some armor, though, 6+. Morale save, not going to be much, though. But they are tough fighters, so keep that in mind for a little bit more offensive punch. 21 points a unit there. You get Benjamite light infantry with slings or mixed slings and bows, same range as slings, fielded as small units. So again, don't expect much in close combat, but you do have some solid long range firepower there, again, especially for a small unit. And then the marksman rule, all for 15 points. You get Issachar skirmishers with javelins as small units. So again, pretty weak in combat, which you might expect, but okay short range abilities there, and very cheap at 11 points a unit. Issachar skirmishers with bows as small units. Basically, same thing. You drop a little bit on the clash value. Again, you can't expect much out of these guys in close combat, but brings back that solid ranged firepower, long range firepower of 2, all for 12 points a unit. So definitely worth fielding a good chunk of those. And a cool thing here, too, just to point out, I forgot to mention that. So for the Danites and the Benjamites, there's no restriction here as far as like you only get like 1 unit or something like that, or a certain amount of units per division or anything. That doesn't say anything about restrictions here. So, load up on those guys if you want more tough fighters and marksmen. Moving on, Philistine medium infantry. So we get back into some more hand-to-hand things here. Sorry about the camera shaking. So Philistine medium infantry with swords and javelins. Here you only get 1 unit. Again, we get that better combat ability again, and 5-up morale, a little bit of short range, but tough fighters, 24 points for the unit. Again, it's more of an elite unit. You might as well take it if it makes sense for your force. But you might not want like a Philistine thing in your force if you're, depending on, if you're making like a theme or something like that for your list. A Phoenician medium infantry with javelins and bows. So again, really good, that typical 6 and 6 for clash and sustained here for these medium infantry from this era and region, but coupled with awesome ranged fighting ability here, and 5-up save, 26 points a unit. So you only get one unit. You might as well take advantage of it to have a close combat unit that's as good as pretty much all your other stuff, with that fantastic ranged fighting too. So anytime you can whittle the enemy down a little bit before they get to you, throw in some damage to hopefully get them closer to being shaken when close combat finally does happen, definitely worth considering. Edomite, Moabite, or Ammonite skirmishers with javelins, field of small units, again, more of the same here. So 11 points a unit, again, pretty much the same as some of the other stuff up above. Arab, camel riding light cavalry armed with bows, fielded as small unit. You get the one unit here, so solid clash value, but again, drops off if you don't manage to knock them out in that first round. Some really solid range, though, especially considering it's a small unit. 6-up save isn't going to do you much, and they do have the feigned flight rule, so you can do some hit and run tactics there. And then you get your light chariots, which is going to be really some of the big punch in the army here, with bows and spears for the crew. Clash of 7, which is fantastic there for this era. 3-2 on the range, 4-up morale save, so the best you're going to get in the force here. 30 points for the unit. It does seem like a little bit more expensive than some of the other chariot forces we've recently been looking at, but that's fine. Then a Naarim or Nyarim light chariot with bow and spear crews. So basically same as above. For 1 extra point, you get tough fighters, though. So, and again, you only get the 1 unit. You might as well pay that extra point just to have that tough fighters. And then you get your chariot runners and cavalry outriders, which we saw up above. So the cavalry outriders are a subunit of the chariot, so a little bit new wrinkle to that here. You could have chariot runners and cavalry outriders, so you can kind of build this like hybrid 3-way unit here for your chariots. But chariot runners are pretty standard, as we've seen across all of the lists that do the chariot running thing. The cavalry outriders, though, give a little bit more punch here. It's basically like that light cavalry unit that we've seen starting to sort of creep its way into the list here over the last several videos. But 13 points per unit and 17 points per unit, respectively. And the outriders do have that 5 on the clash value there, which is pretty neat. And again, up to 1 unit per chariot for these guys. So you can definitely actually have a chunk of cavalry in this list. It's got to be included with the chariots, so keep that in mind. And then interestingly here, so standard leadership, as we've seen with most armies, that leadership 8 across the board. But interestingly here, you can kind of bring in a little bit of history, mythology, religion again, however you want to look at it. But if you actually wanted to field the Ark of the Covenant and model it, this could be pretty damn cool. But it can be borne by the general's entourage as an army standard for an extra 25 points, in which case his leadership is bumped to 9, and any unit he joins becomes valiant while he remains with it. So pretty neat upgrade there. And again, so certainly colorful as far as like collecting and all that goes. Again, we're not going to get into a debate about religion and anything like that. That's this is not the place for anything like that. This is strictly wargaming. So so please leave any of those comments somewhere else. Don't leave that on the video here. But so a really cool list, basically different like groups from that region here. So you got different Israel and Judah, like the various tribes and stuff like that, some of their neighboring contemporaries and stuff to field in this here. So it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, but you get, again, sort of the typical medium infantry with a range of skirmishers, a little bit of chariot support here with, again, a new wrinkle that we haven't seen, which is in addition to chariot runners, you get sort of a cavalry outrider attachment that you can add to your chariots too. So a pretty interesting little punch that you could add to your army here. So, and again, if we look at our requirements, infantry does have to be at least half of the army, but chariots have to be at least a quarter of it. So you could kind of almost go like a 50-50 split if you wanted. And in that chariot part, you can really be a little bit sneaky and include a fair chunk of cavalry if you wanted to upgrade all your chariots with those cavalry outriders, which again adds more units, but also adds that extra little bit of punch throughout, which could be really interesting too. So overall, Israel and Judah, a lot of cool stuff here. You can definitely go with a lot of different themes for the army. Certainly the unit selection allows for that, and just overall fun, I guess essentially historical list to collect. And again, doing a little bit of digging in the history there, you could definitely field some interesting lists for the various time periods that does cover. And unit wise, it's not the greatest model range, at least as far as I'm aware. I know Warlord does have some, and some of the other companies that make stuff too, but definitely one that could deserve some attention at some point. As far as like plastic kits and stuff go, just to make it a little bit easier to collect and stuff like that, and kind of maybe update some of the quality of the models and sculpts and stuff like that you might expect for this. And certainly something having like a Ark of the Covenant model or something like that. Although for now you're basically, I think, stuck with building out of green stuff or something like that. I don't think there's a model for that anywhere, but another cool addition that you could add. And again, being able to bump your leadership up to 9, whereas pretty much all your other contemporary opponents would be stuck with leadership 8 or possibly worse, is a good thing. So overall, really cool stuff here. Israel and Judah. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hit that like button if you can, subscribe if you haven't already, and then stay tuned for more Hail Caesar content.